Time to meet the world's second most beloved pair of grannies, with Janet and Rita, of course, being first, as Coraline goes to the basement to chat with Miss Spink and Miss Forcible. Come in, dearies. I'm McGann, and this is the Fangirl, where we have been dissecting every nitty-gritty detail in Coraline. Last week, we dealt with Bobinski being equal parts alarming and crazy. And this week, we're meeting the old ladies in the basement to have a truly unique experience. But first, some comment appreciation. Doll's art by Artie Nyan 206 left a string of comments, one of which translated the Bobinski-related items that are in Russian, and I couldn't read those, so that's great. So apparently, the box outside is labeled cheese, and the Russian letter is from the juggling bear. I guess that means that cheeses work for bear training too then? What an insanely niche business model. The same commenter also noted Bobinski's shelves as having two Matryoshka dolls. I think I called them nesting dolls because the proper title was escaping me, and that they see a ball that might be used for mouse training, similar to the one we'll see in the other world later. Then Night of Lilies noticed that one of the photos on Bobinski's shelf looks like the Bell Dam still disguised as Mel. Okay, for this one, I want everyone watching to weigh in, because I'm seeing 4 pictures, but I'm struggling to make any of them out with my old eyes. So first, there's an image on the roof that I think is some kind of Playboy centerfold type of thing. We have this framed photo on the top shelf that, to me, kind of looks like a picture of a trophy. Then the lower shelf has what looks like another image of Bobinski in his ringmaster style suit from the painting below, or maybe that could be a picture of his father? He is supposed to be part of an old circus family, but I can make out what looks like thick eyebrows, a bushy mustache, and the open collared shirt. And then the 4th photo is on the top shelf, kind of in the middle, but it's too small and I cannot make out what it's supposed to be. I'm really interested to start this discussion and see what you guys think though. Now, into the movie. Coraline was just irritated by Mr. Bobinski, but she seems to lighten her own mood by getting her chauffeur hat out of the suitcase on top of the car, and then Coraline strolls down to the basement level doorway of Miss Spink and Miss Forcible. Also, we're doing a little rough justice in the People's Court today because I'm not 1000% sure which one is Spink and which one is Forcible. But there's a chairlift right there on the stairwell too, and frankly, I'm sad that Coraline doesn't do the childish thing and insist on trying it out. But I guess her dumb legs work just fine as she hops down the steps and uses this theater drama mask door knocker that is utterly amazing. I need one. And remember, these are all renters at this house. So either these old ladies already owned this door knocker and took it with them when they moved in here, or they bullied Mrs. Lovat into installing this for them as a condition of their moving in. And I'm inclined to think that they harassed the landlord for the door knocker because they have a chairlift, and that's also something that would need to be professionally installed and not automatically included with every client. I mean, in most leases, you can't do anything permanent to the property. The landlord has to be the one to do that. So, I wonder how long they've lived here in the Pink Palace. Anyways, Coraline knocks 3 times and then notices the doormat that says, "No whistling in the house." Now, in a second, we're going to see more about Miss Spink and Miss Forcible's past, but is the whistling in regard to upsetting the dogs? Or is this a warning not to whistle because these senior citizen ladies still think they're so sexy that you might whistle and harass them? I am genuinely curious on the mindset for this detail, but it's adorable to me. And no one is answering the door right away, so Coraline presses her face against the glass to peer inside, and a little woof woof terror tries to jump scare us. And as Miss Spink I think Spink is pink at least, opens the door. 3 Scottish Terriers run out. And I love that they're all just a little bit different when the animators could have just essentially cloned the model of one dog 3 times. But these dogs are running out the door and jumping all over Coraline, and the dogs sound like they want to be threatening, but they actually calm down very quickly when Miss Spink tells them to hush it up. And being a proper lady, Miss Spink remarks that it's nice to see Coraline and asks her if she'd like to come inside. Now, I have animals, I love animals, but I am not a big fan of going to other people's houses when they have animals, especially when it's poorly trained dogs that jump all over you. You ever try to have pizza with somebody and watch a movie with 4 dogs trying to get in your lap? Yeah, that's nobody's idea of a good time. And these terriers definitely act like they run the household. However, one of my favorite moments in this entire movie is this entrance into Miss Spink and Forcible's home. Coraline tries to correct Miss Spink about her name, but she's not listening. Instead, she's explaining that they've been playing cards, and then she calls out for Miss Forcible to put the kettle on. Then Miss Spink winks at Coraline before hobbling away with her walker, and I love how she moves out of frame, and we get a look at this old poster, which has 2 young women with come hither looks and revealing clothing. And it just says Spink and Forcible. However, because Miss Spink just winked and the poster woman that she was covering is also winking, the audience quickly puts together that the young redheaded lady in the poster used to be her. And it's such a beautiful touch, because if you aren't paying attention to the names on the poster, you wouldn't even absorb that detail. But the wink ties it all together instantaneously. That's a wonderful bit of cinematography. Although, even though Coraline stares at the poster kind of shocked, there is absolutely no other wording on that poster to give us any indication of what we're looking at. Were they swimsuit models? Did they perform in the circus? There is a question implanted into our brains without any way to answer it. Then Coraline passes through a curtain and sees the main living area for Spink and Forcible. For me, the first notable imagery is that we have a bunch of dead dogs in angel suits on either side of this big red couch. And what appears to be the building's heater has a theatrical curtain around it, and it's made up to look like a stage. There are also stringed lights wrapped around the support beams of the room. It feels like you're coming into a show. But other than that, the apartment is extremely drab. There's a few floor lamps, some random chairs from what appear to be the 50s or 60s, along with a small row of theater fold-down seating and 2 chests. We can also make out a refrigerator and some cupboards, but not really anything else. This is not the cozy, overly cluttered granny house that we would stereotypically see in America. Now, as the shot changes, we also see a dresser with some books, and a vase, and a mirror on top. But oddly, the mirror is broken. Almost like the old lady saw the reflection one day, got mad, and destroyed that lying pane of glass. Or maybe that came about from them being trapped in the Limbo Pink Palace because the other Spink and the other Forcible are still attractive young women, and they obviously are not here. They're cute old ladies, but they're definitely not hotties to trotties. And if you're into that kind of thing, then power to you, that is none of my business. This is also our first shot of Miss Forcible, and she seems to have a kitchen in the small room behind her while she rushes out holding a porcelain jar marked Jasmine. And notice that her glasses are folded up and resting inside her shirt collar, which is interesting because that means that Miss Forcible can't see very well, but 2, she's more concerned about looking as attractive as possible in front of company. And traditionally, and I say this as a glasses wearer, glasses have been viewed as something that makes a woman look unattractive. You know, the old cliche where a man in a film takes off an ugly girl's glasses, and without those glasses, it turns out she's actually beautiful. That feels like what Miss Forcible has going on in the back of her head right now. Oh, and it's also a good time to note that their fuller names are Miriam Forcible and April Spink. Well, that is assuming that I got which one is Spink and which one is Forcible correct, because Miriam Spink and April Forcible actually sounds better to my ears. But next we get a neat artisanal view from Miss Forcible's glasses as she's comprehending who is coming to her home. We also get to see the other side of that room, and yeah, it's just as sparse as the view we had before. Honestly, I'm a little worried for these ladies and their fragile old bones. A concrete floor is not the kind of place you want to fall at their age. And we can see the cracks in the foundation to know that there isn't even a carpet down there. Seriously, this landlord can install a chairlift, but they can't put in carpets to warm and cushion these old women? What is this place? And as Spink tells Forcible to put on oolong tea, Coraline looks around and notices two more posters. First, we have Julius Sees Her, starring Spink and Forcible, where we have a lot of Spink's side booty and Forcible having some massive cleavage going on. And the face in the negative space looks very excited and pleased to see them. But really, if you don't pay attention, this image doesn't look provocative immediately. You don't notice the lusty face, and the way the women are dressed is fairly tame by 2009 standards, so it's not really risque at all for this time period. Then we pan over to see the poster for King Lear, and that's Lear as in ogling. And again, other than the king looking very enthused, the women themselves don't look scantily dressed other than maybe the fishnet stockings. So you truly can blink and miss Spink and Forcible's entire backstory, where we see that they used to be burlesque showgirls. Go girls. Both of these posters are also spin-off titles for Shakespeare plays, which Shakespeare is huge in Ashland, Oregon, where this movie is set, but how to put this without getting flagged. Remember in the 90s when you'd go to the video store and there would be a special room that has a curtain and it said for 18 plus only, and in there you'd find titles of movies that were like Alice in Wonderbra or Saving Ryan's Privates. Yeah, these posters are like those movies. And actually, it was a thing for rich people to get dressed up and go to these really trashy burlesque shows and gawk at the performances that were seen as lewd. It even had a name. They called it slumming it. But while I'm laughing at these posters, Spink and Forcible are arguing about whether to make jasmine or oolong tea, and their relationship is like bickering sisters. It grates on my nerves. According to Neil Gaiman, the author of Coraline, these two women are a secret-ish romantic couple, but I would have never guessed that from the way they interact. Next, we get a down shot of the table, and the dogs have to get booted off the couch for Coraline to sit down. And I see that they were playing cards, but I can't tell what they were playing. Although it is odd to see 4 piles of cards for 2 players. Perhaps they have their 2 hands, a discard pile, and a deck, but it looks unusual to me with how spread out it all is, especially when you consider the limited range of motion that these ladies have. And as Coraline sits down, this is somehow the moment that she realizes there are dead dogs all over the shelving. But notice how none of them have marble eyes or even button eyes. All of the eyes are sewn shut with an X. And Miss Spink just says how they couldn't bear to part with the dogs who had passed on, and she starts listing them all off by name. Meanwhile, Miss Miss Forcible delivers the tea, along with this weird old lady candy that, for some reason, every granny seems to have. Even the way Forcible calls it hand-pulled taffy from Brighton, best in the world, is so unusual. She flips her hand up to her face as if she's wanting Coraline to admire her beauty, which does insinuate that at least one person has called Miss Forcible the best in the world as well. But the candy is old and gross and all stuck together, so Coraline, who is apparently an animal, just puts her whole dirty rain boot right on top of this food item that's meant to go into your mouth, and she struggles with it so hard that she accidentally kicks the candy up to the ceiling and it gets stuck on a heating duct. Oh, and you can see little spider webs up there too. The touches in here are perfect. And while Coraline is looking up like, I'm not telling anyone anything about what I just messed up, Miss Spink offers to read Coraline's tea leaves. And while her big-eye purple hat certainly steals this scene, notice the tea light that she pulls in is a big fish. And I believe that's the same big fish that we'll see other Miss Spink in later on. Also, it has a nice little double meaning there because a big fish is something that's known to be a story from an exaggerator, somebody who's not going to tell you the truth. Instead, they're going to tell you a fantastic story. And that is the exact vibe that I get from Miss Spink here anyways. I love it. So after Coraline drinks most of the tea, Spink starts swishing around what's left. And then she tells the kid that she's in terrible danger. And Coraline's shocked face is so perfect. All I can think of is Harry and Ron in Professor Trelawney's class, and they notice that the more doom and gloom she goes on about, the happier she gets. However, Miss Forcible marches over and demands to read the tea leaves because Miss Spink has bad eyes, to which Spink says that Forcible is blind as a bat. And this is the first moment where I noticed just how much makeup these two women have on. The eyeshadow is easy to notice, but they also have on rouge, lipstick, and a lot of eyeliner. Who is all that makeup for? How can they apply makeup better than me when they're both mostly blind? And I wonder if that makeup is so old that it's full of lead, because these ladies be a little bit nutso. Much like Bobinsky, the old ladies are delusional, and they have a touch of narcissism because they are definitely rejecting reality and substituting in their own. But Forcible insists that Spink is wrong about the danger, and that it's really a tall, dark beast that's in Coraline's future, which Coraline reacts to that as if Forcible also said that she was in danger. And when the audience gets to view the tea leaves, Spink believes it's an ominous claw-like hand, but when it's turned upside down, Forcible thinks it's a giraffe. Again, similar to Bobinsky, Coraline is being given a warning and then having it brushed off at the same time. And that's pretty well reinforced when the candy dish falls and breaks in front of everyone, and no one says a word about it. No one goes to get a broom, nothing. Also notice that Coraline makes zero effort to clean up the broken glass that she caused. She instead diverts the conversation and asks the ladies what she should do. I mean, about the fortune that they just read, not Coraline asking what she should do about the mess she just caused. And Spink and Forcible's advice is so ridiculous. Never wear green in your dressing room. Acquire a very tall step ladder. And be very, very careful. Which would actually be decent advice if not for Miss Forcible boob punting Miss Spink to the floor and probably breaking her hip. And Miss Forcible is just finger combing her hair and awkwardly smiling while trying to look cute and innocent. Has this been their entire lives together? Because this seems miserable. But Spink gets up and asks Coraline if she has anything to tell them, and Coraline says, "No, I guess not. Why say you guess not, as if there was something and you changed your mind? You had no directive to tell them anything. You were just sent down there to give your mother a break. What does this mean? This line doesn't make sense." So how I take this interaction overall is that we have these two old women who likely have fuzzy-brained memory issues, and Spink is more in line with Bobinsky, where she is more wary and paranoid that something is wrong with reality. But she's not saying anything because she knows it will make her sound crazy. So instead she tells people's fortunes to warn them. And then we have Forcible, who chooses to be blissfully ignorant of her situation, which she can do by removing her glasses, and she seems to take any questioning from Spink as a threat to her reign as the queen bee. Forcible is plugged into the Matrix and she likes it there. But I'm curious what you guys think of this scene, if there are any details I missed, and if you think Spink and Forcible act more like a couple or a pair of siblings. I might be overthinking it, but that's literally my job. And to any of my members here on YouTube, a huge bottom of my heart thank you for all of your help and support. If you would like to become a paid channel member, there is a link in the description below. Thanks again, guys. Love you. Well, family members, we're almost done, but I want to invite you to hang out with me in some other places. I'm on Twitter and Instagram as my own personal self, and I have a Facebook page too, but I mostly just post photos over there. And sometimes people say, "Hey McGann, I want to mail you something. How do I do that?" Easy. Just click the About tab on my channel page, and my most current P.O. Box info will be right there. I also run another channel, The Family. It's really a hodgepodge channel where we might post anything. Oh yeah, and I also sell shirts and stickers and stuff with the Family and the Fangirl logos. If that is your cup of tea, I have a link in every description of every video. Finally, if you want to help out the Fangirl channel and make sure I'm putting out video essays for years to come, the best way you can help is by subscribing and watching more of my videos, whether they're new, old, whatever. Maybe even share one or two on social media, help spread the word. People who watch to the end of videos, like you, helps to tell the site, hey, this is a good video, we should recommend it to other people. So if you made it this far, leave me a comment of something like, hey, I made it to the end. Love ya. See you next time, family members. Bye.